I'm going to start with a little prayer, I think, from Teresa of Avila. Because I'm madly in love with her, and because saints are real, and because their grace is real, and the older I get and the more that I live on this earth, and the more I understand, the more I know we don't walk anywhere outside of grace. It's just not possible. It's not possible. So I'm just going to start with her thoughts, remembering that she wrote 500 years ago, which, if you really thought about it, was just yesterday. Just yesterday. It's not that long ago. My grandmother was born in the 1800s, and I knew her till I was 39. That was 2 centuries ago now. So her grandparents would have been in the late 17. I mean, let's just do the math. So one of the thoughts Teresa has, and this to me, is when someone says, what is prayer? Prayer is withdrawing from ordinary thought and falling into extraordinary thought that elevates your senses. It shuts down reason because you're always searching for reason. What's the reason for this? What's the reason for that? What's the reason? And when you look in the world and always search for reason, your thoughts are like vacuum cleaners on the ground. And that's all you're doing, is you're vacuuming the ground. What's the reason? What's the reason my life is not? What's the reason? What's the reason? You're like a vacuum cleaner. And what a prayer actually is the, like sucking, you manage to detach and breathe in and have a thought, a perception, a truth that takes you out of the illusion, Buddha, the illusion that life is about finding reason. That the journey of life is actually finding reason, which it is not. That the journey of life is to let go of finding reason and making yourself the center of your universe. And that the real journey is about finding truth. And the truth is you're not the center of the universe. Which is why all saints and teachers emphasize the first great lesson, which is humility. You are not, and never have been, nor ever will you be, the center of the universe, because once you die, would the universe collapse? Much to our surprise, no. It simply will continue going as it goes, and it won't even miss us. Much to our surprise, the trees, the birds, the water will not even miss us. Will they even know we've been here? Only if we've been destructive. She writes, and hear this here, a whole lifetime is short, and sometimes very short. How do we know that ours may not be so short as to end in an hour? Or even a minute, after we've determined to give ourselves wholly to God? It's quite possible, for we cannot depend on anything that passes away, much less on life, on which we must not reckon for even a single day. We may be among those who, worldly as we still are, have some deep desire to do what is right. At times, rare as they may be, we commend ourselves to God's care. We think about our souls every now and then, but busy as we are, we pray only a few times a month, even though our minds are filled with 1,000 other matters. But know this, where your treasure is, there also is your heart. Teresa. Even 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, nothing has changed with human beings. Nothing has changed. We live a distracted life. Well, you know that I'm obsessed with Teresa. I'm obsessed. And it's a pleasant obsession, I have to say, but and I'm a bit of a political creature, which will remain, that's all I'll say. But in the height of one of my political madness attacks, which I fear coming on again, but that's all we'll say. But in the height of it, I grabbed one of her books, and I had to laugh because she wrote, all of this war, all of this madness. And she said, either solve this or either solve this or destroy us, but be done with it. And I sat back and I started laughing hysterically in my office. In the days of swords and sabers. And I thought nothing will ever change, except some things do change. And we're going to begin our journey together through that door with what is changing, because everything changes constantly. It's one of the mystical laws of the universe. It is one of the mystical laws. So how we're going to enter this is through an archetype, a metaphor, rather an analogy. And how I want you to picture yourselves is existing in a, this is a cute little thing, in a condominium building. Because it's actually the perfect analogy with penthouse. Because your life are in one building, and the building doesn't change, but whatever floor you are on changes everything. Whatever floor you live on, the whole world looks different to you. And in fact, you feel different. The truth is that if you lived on the first floor, your ego feels very different than if I moved you to the penthouse. Same building. And you know it. You know it. The big PH address. Same building. But everything about you would suddenly change. Your worldview, your sense of power. Same building. Same address. So even in that tiny ego exercise, I could change your world. In the real world, I could change your world by moving you from the first floor to the penthouse, just like that. And you would not even realize I am now spell casting. I'm going to cast a spell on you. I'm going to control you completely. I'm simply going to put you on a different floor, and I control you. That's how controllable and vulnerable an object the human being is. Just like that. Same building. So with that in mind, let's say that this building also represented, just so you have a working notion that in fact, moving around in a building is power. First floor to penthouse. So now let's say that every floor of the building represents the journey from illusion to truth. Illusion to truth. And that's the journey we are on. From what is illusion to what is truth. And that there's a mechanism in us that will say, this is as far as I can go. I can't afford the mortgage on the next floor. I can't afford to see the world that way. I can't afford it, and I won't do it. I will not do it. Now, in all mystical literature,